It's Wednesday, April 19th, 2017. It's time for WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker. I'm Greg Watkins, the editor at WorthPoint.com. And now, Harry, what have we got to talk about?
Here we are.
Today? Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about where I am to some degree. I'm in Washington, D.C., as you know. 4 times a year I travel down here. I'm a member of the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee. That's a group of 12 individuals that Master General in the subject matter and design of stamps, and we meet 4 times a year, and here I am. I'm actually, this time kind of neat. We're up on Capitol Hill. They put us up at the Capitol Hill Hotel, which probably, it's a little boutique hotel, as they say, but with 60-some rooms and stuff. And the whole matter of it is that we're right next door to the Madison building. Now, I have a cousin who works at the Library of Congress. He's 80 years old, but he has been in the map division since the early 70s. He lives in a basement. He never had an office with a window in it. But he catalogs maps. He can read about 14 foreign languages, and he owns part of the world for map cataloging. It's kind of, well, map catalogers are the old geography and cartography majors there's still some programs around for that, but they're kind of an unusual group of people. They trade countries, well, you're responsible for Pennsylvania, but I'd like to have Pennsylvania, I'll trade you Texas, that type of stuff. But in this case, he trades countries, but he can read most of the Russian Cyrillic alphabet. So he's a pretty valuable soul down there, and he's been around it. Well, anyway, I haven't been up, but all the years I've been on the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee, I've always gone down to the buildings of the Smithsonian. I haven't been up on the Hill in a while. So I thought I'd give them a call, and the Library of Congress now has 3 huge buildings, the old 1899 building, which is the so-called the Library of Congress everybody knows, but they have these 2 other modern buildings, the Adams Building and the Madison Building. And so I went over and I met him, and the wonderful thing about the Library of Congress is it's open to the public. I mean, it is your library, our library. And so we went over there, and he took me up to a cafeteria on the 6th floor of the Madison Building. Now, I don't think most people know about half of these things down here in Washington, but was one of these wonderful places where, have you ever been in one of those places where you eat, where they have about 15 stations and you fill up a dish or something, and then they weigh it on the way out, and you pay flat price per pound for food?
Yes. Yes, those are dangerous places.
Yeah, you've done that type of thing. So we had this wonderful lunch, and then he says, well, let's go over to the main building. Well, what you don't understand is that all of these buildings up here in the Capitol are connected by underground walkways. So he said, it's too hot to go out in the street. Let's go through the tunnels, the so-called tunnels. So, man, we're walking through all these weird tunnels, and what do we come up is we pop up right in the middle of the old library, which was kind of great fun. And back in the 60s, when I was down in Washington semester program, I actually had a carol there and did research work there. Now, I have to say, it was a little different this time because the school tours were in Washington. And so we got out there, and he wanted to show off the building because he loves the Library of Congress, and so do I, by the way, for that matter, in terms of its architecture and all of the ornamentation that was done in it. But it was a little hard to see anything. So I went to see an exhibit, and it was an interesting exhibit. We're coming up to the 100th anniversary of America's entry into World War I, right?
Right.
In fact, I think we passed the entry into war, and we're into celebrations over the next 2 years. It's fascinating to see that because you think, okay, 100th anniversary, big deal. Now, we did the 100th anniversary of the Civil War, 55 years ago, or however long it was ago. But the thing was, that was a big deal. But, no one seems to care about the First World War. I tried to get I had suggested that maybe we should do a series of stamps about our involvement in World War I. And we're actually going to do one stamp, okay? And that's it. But the Library of Congress had this huge exhibit on World War I stuff. And, of course, if you go to visit it, what you see are all these wonderful World War I posters. And, boy, I'll tell you, the poster art from World War I was fabulous. But you got in there and you saw all the documentation and stuff in there. It was fun to see it because it's like collectible heaven up there. And then they did something interesting. They're recreating Thomas Jefferson's library because that's how the Library of Congress got started. Jefferson donated his personal library to the Library of Congress. And when the British invaded Washington in War of 1812, I think it was 1813 or 14, they burned some of it, but not all of it, and some of the books were saved. Well, surprisingly enough, they have some of Jefferson's original volumes, but there was a list. Jefferson had a list. So they've been buying back some of the volumes that were destroyed. So they have that, and then they have, maybe they need a couple of dozen volumes yet to complete it all. But it was really fascinating to see it. They have it now in this rotunda area in one of the side wings. It just was fun. And then you know what? I need to go to the Capitol. I haven't been in the Capitol in decades. Now, again, back in 1961, I was the American University had a program called the Washington Semester Program, where they took the top students from colleges around the country. We came down and spent an entire semester studying government. And we did sections on all the branches of government and the organizations and so forth. Well, anyway, that was a time when there was no security down here. And so, man, all of us that were in the program, we used to just roam the Capitol building, the cellars, the crypts, the tunnels, the Senate buildings, just on our own. We didn't. Nowadays, you can't even go in. If you want to see the rotunda at the Capitol, you got to go on a tour. You can't. Really? Yeah, you can't go in on your own. Wow. So I walked underground again. There's a tunnel that goes from the Library of Congress to the Capitol, and I walked it, but I finally got over there, and I didn't have a ticket. But then they had a line for people who didn't have tickets, and it looked very short to me. So I went in it, and I said, "Hi, I don't have a reservation." I'm sorry, I don't have a reservation. They said, "Oh, okay, there's a tour leaving in 3 minutes. Here's a ticket." So I went on. But then they make you sit. They make you sit and watch this film, and then you go into the rotunda, and there's so many people there. I mean, they couldn't have put a dead body in there. They talk about 31 dead bodies that were in the rotunda. There could have been a dead body there that day, and nobody would have noticed. But it was fun to see the trouble paintings in the Capitol Dome again, and they've just gone through a big restoration of that. But it was fun to get back up on the hill again, and I miss it. And I think if I come back to Washington again, now the key, they tell me, that the guys say, is come in January up to mid-February, because that's when people don't come. Right. And you get smaller groups and you see more, because right now with these big groups, you had this guy, you get these set of earphones you put on, and this guy's talking to you, and you cut in and out of groups, and it was a zoo. And I figure, okay, I was going to look in the gift shops, and I thought, who the heck needs it, But it was interesting. One of the things is you go underneath the dome of the Capitol, and there is an empty tomb there. Did you know that?
No.
It was supposed to be a tomb for George Washington. And when they started building the Capitol, they told George, "Hey, George, we want to bury you in the center of the Capitol," right?
Yeah.
And so, why not?
Why not?
So George said, "That's fine. That's not a problem." Except that the problem was that George died in 1799 before the center part of the Capitol was built, which wasn't completed until the 1830s. So when they completed it in the 1830s, the representatives from the Capitol people went over and said, "Hey, George, we'd like," or to George's kids, I guess, said, "We'd like the body." And they said, "You can't have it. Dad put it as will. He wants to stay at Mount Vernon." So there's just an empty crypt down there. I guess we don't have anybody else to bury in it or whatever it is. But it was great fun. And, what's about it is that you go there. And, they have Statuary Hall, and each state is allowed to have 2 statues of people at any one time.
Right.
There, okay. And if you don't like the 2 you have to switch them out. And states have started to do that to some extent. But it's like learning American history all over again and seeing all the great leaders in that type of stuff, and all the great leaders and wherever you go with all of that. So it was just a great day for me to get up in there. And it reminds me again of all the patriotic symbols. You know, you see the statue that was on top of there, like a statue, you know, of justice and all the rest. So Statue of Liberty, which was not the Statue of Liberty in New York, but the one that was up on top of the dome. And the Rotunda has all these famous historical paintings by John Trumbull and that type of thing. And it's just kind of fun. I had grown up in the East, so I was around this stuff, you know, most of my life, and it was nothing to run down to Washington and go visit. But, you know, for people who are in the other parts of the country that have never done this, it really is still worth it, I think. So anyway, that's a long and short story about what I've been doing these last couple of days, but it's also, in a sense, a form of renewal for me because it reminds me about patriotism and the American spirit and why I like collecting a lot of early Americana so much, because it does. And I look in the cases and they say, oh, a letter signed by so-and-so. And I say, I have a letter signed by that guy too in my collection. So it was kind of fun. Well, speaking about stuff in collections, we got a couple of interesting things to talk about tonight, right?
Right, we do.
And I'm going to get the first one up. We got a letter from one of our viewers that has a bunch of mini comic books, all right? And there are three slides, right? There they are. Yeah. And it's Donald Duck and the Buccaneers. And here you can see that they're 32-page comic books, but they're in this strip form. And what they are is they were premiums from Wheaties cereal. Now, you know, Wheaties wasn't overly clever about this. You didn't have to eat a box of Wheaties and get a free comic, because next thing you would do is that you might have to have, you might have 10 of one example and none of another one, right?
Right.
So the deal was you had to eat a box of Wheaties, and then you got the coupon off the back and send them 15 cents, and you got 8 comics as in an envelope, right? Which for 15 cents back then wasn't a bad deal, because comic books were a dime. 8 little mini comics for that thing. But the thing about it is there were 4 series of 8, or a total of 32. So in doing research on this, you had to kind of figure out, what these comics were from. And so I was able to find on the internet, you know, lists of set C and lists of set D and so forth. But eventually I said enough of this, so I finally made a list of set A, set B, set C, and set D, because I figure if you have a complete set, it's got to be worth more as a set than as an individual comic, okay? So as it turns out, even though this guy didn't understand what order they should be in, he actually has a full set of B, C, and D, and no comic books from set A, okay, which is all right. But then the other thing was that you say, okay, so he has all 8 comic books from each of the 3 sets. Is that a complete unit? Aha! Back into what is a complete unit. And it turns out that these comic books came in an envelope from Wheaties marked set A, set B, set C, set D. So if you have the 8 comic books, but you don't have the envelope, that impacts set value. All right?
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things that you always fool around with this type of stuff is before you assume it's complete, you better make sure you do your homework and see if the packaging that it came with is part of it, all right? Now, also, from this, there's a number of different characters involved. There's Donald Duck, right? Mickey Mouse. Let's see, there was Pluto, I think, in some of them. I think, yes, Pluto. Goofy was in another one, right?
Right. And
there were some secondary characters, too. Gus and Jock, the mice from, of all places, Cinderella.
Cinderella, right.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
And I forget, there may have been 1 or 2. Oh, the Little Bad Wolf. Now, I have to tell you, as much as I mean, Gus and Jock I knew, but I don't remember the Little Bad Wolf, even though I read a lot of comic books back then as a kid. So
yeah, I don't remember him either.
Right. And so as you can imagine, oh, and Minnie Mouse, oh, there's Brer Rabbit, right?
Yes.
And yes, and Minnie's there too. So
Minnie, there's a second little bad wolf there.
yeah, right. And what you have here is this: not all Disney characters are collected equally, right?
Right.
So what happens is that theoretically they have individual value, but they also have parent set value. Now, if you go up to WorthPoint.com, which I assume you did, right?
I have, yes.
And you found a bunch of these things up there, right? But
yeah, there are 300 listings of
300. Well, no, wait, but there was what? Look at that one. That looks like a full set of A, B, and C, right? Without the envelope.
Without the envelopes.
Now
here's one that does have the envelope.
All right, so now let's look at some fun stuff here, right? So it sold for how much? 51 bucks. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's a B set minus one comic.
All right.
Okay, let's go to the second one. No, not that one.
Yeah, I know, but I'm showing the envelope here.
Oh, there's the envelope. All right. Good. All right, we'll buy into that.
Let's back up. The
so let's go to the picture that has the 32 comic books in it, right?
Yes.
There you go. Now, you notice that here it's a full set of 36 without the envelopes, right?
Yes.
But if you take 30 into that, you get about $4 a piece, a little over $4 a piece. Yet not everyone is worth $4. Some are worth more, some are worth less. And in fact, this is one case where set value didn't pay off for anybody because that's less than they sell for individually. And even the lesser examples bring more than $4. But let's see what we have here. Right?
Right.
Let's see what you have here.
So here is a complete 8 set with mailer for $225.
Yes. And somebody paid way too much for that, but okay, but maybe it was in really great shape because condition is also critical in that one. Right? And there you can see on the back how it works in terms of value. And those look really crisp. And so this is a case where in comic books, as in so many of the things, all the high values in the last 10% of the condition report. Yeah. In other words, if they're 60% condition or 70% condition, that's one thing. If they're 95% condition, that's times 10. Okay, so you have to be real careful. Now, the other thing is it's extremely important, too, to get the dates of these, right, of these sales, because this is a situation when I checked them out and checked values out, the value is going down.
Well, I have these sorted by most recent. Okay.
Oh, you do? All right. Well, that's that $200 price for that set's very strong.
That $225 was December of 2016.
Wow. Somebody must have wanted that really bad because I have to tell you what, that's a high price for that.
Yeah.
But then there's a price of what is it, $45 for just one of the A6 list? A side of it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hefty price too. But my research showed that those prices are way over. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on for them because I was picking up prices in the $8 to $12 range on eBay now. Sell it now prices on eBay.
Well, the most recent one was last month. This Brer Rabbit sold for $10.
Yeah, and that's a strong price for one in average condition, actually. But
yeah.
Hey, if you have 32 and you get $5 a piece for them, that's $100.50. Or if you get $10 a piece for them, that's $300. All right.
Yeah.
But again, what does all this mean? What does all this discussion mean? Well, what's the value of those comics? Well, until he sells them, he's not going to know, right?
Right.
And the question is, do you break? And this is the thing: do you break up the set and piece them out, or do you sell them as a set? Now, I would think if I was going to advise him on what to do, okay, I'd tell him to sell it as a set. But having said that, look right here. Stop at that row, and there is a Wheaties Premium Complete Set B, right? You went by it here.
Oh. Okay.
Back up there a bit. There is a set B. See it right there? B. You're missing it there, buddy. Where are you here? You have it? 1 minute, and I come down a little bit.
All right. I've got D up here. I've got A over here. I've got C here. I don't see. Oh, the B set with the envelope. There it is.
Well, yeah, that wasn't what I was looking at. I was looking at a set A and D, I thought, without the envelope. But see, look at the difference between that one. B for 66 bucks versus 250. And there is the oddity of the net, especially eBay. 1 week, you may have nobody interested in. They're watching them and they go for one price. The next week, you may have two guys who remember it and decide they want it, and they'll bid it up in a bidding war.
That's right.
That's another why when you're trying to value this stuff, you really need to spend some time and get more than one number. I mean, Craig, when you see 255, who doesn't want that one, right?
Exactly.
All right, so move on down. Move down another row here on your list there.
Okay.
All right, now here in this row that's on the bottom of the screen right now. See where it says Wheaties Premium Complete Set of 8, 1 for 8? And look what that brought, 32 bucks.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And the lot
31.
And the lot aside of it, how much did that bring?
31.
31. But this was those are 2010 prices, right?
No, those are still 2016.
All right. So there between condition, who's on the net at any given moment of time, look at how that's impacted all these prices. Seriously.
Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason as to.
No. And so
at least it's obvious.
I mean, we want an illustration. Oh, now there's one of my favorite guys. Look at that here.
Rare.
Well, no, but look what it is though. Australian versions of it.
Yes.
Now they may be rare in the United States. Well, no. Let's take that one that you just have up there. That one that you just have your clicker on. Look at that one. Now I got to tell you something. You ready for this? Rare is not $15.49.
No, it's not.
No, when I took over Warman's Antiques and Their Prices back in the early 1980s, I had a gal. The book was at the time about a third pattern glass, and I hired a woman that was a real pattern glass expert, had a wonderful database, and we were able to do a lot with what she had available. But look at how they spell Wheaties too. Isn't that interesting? But anyway, what happened was we were going through the price guide, and it would say such and such a pattern glass sauce, $3 rare. And I finally called her into my office and said, look, $3 is not rare. Okay, $500 might be rare. Now I don't like the word rare at all, but I think it's funny to see this. You know what would be even more fun, but we're not going to do that right now. To eBay. Now what is Australian eBay? eBay.
Is it AU?
No. eBay.au is Austrian eBay. So ebay.co.au is Australian eBay.
Okay.
It'd be fun to see what they're selling for on eBay. Well, anyway, enough of all of this. Fun to see it. I remember having some of these as a kid. This is another thing too. You want to try to get people to send us stuff again?
Well, yeah. We need to have people participating. We need items to talk about.
All right. Well, if you want to submit an item for us to talk about on the air, it's very easy. Send us of your item and everything you know about the item, and that size, markings, your family history to it, how you acquired it, what you paid for it, all the rest of that, to community at WorthPoint. Community at WorthPoint. And we'll get it up here. And you can also, when we're up live, there is a chat box feature on the side of this thing. And what can we tell you? But we're there in that as well. But going back to this type of thing, I think we forget how many, even back in the 50s, how many American products had spin-offs abroad. Hopalong Cassidy, which I used to collect, he made appearances. He made appearances in Australia. He made a flight to Australia to do appearances. They had tons of Hoppy stuff down in Australia. And so if you want to have a complete collection, maybe you need to do all this kind of silliness stuff as well. Now the question becomes, all right, everybody saved the comics, right? Some people saved the envelopes, but who saved the box? Right?
Yeah.
Hoppy was on a Wheaties box. Did you know that?
I did not, but it makes sense that he would be.
And in all the years, I never had one in my collection because I wouldn't pay the money.
What would they want for?
Oh, they were up to $300 to $500 at one point in time.
Really?
Now today, I might be able to buy one for $10 more Hoppy.
Yeah.
Beans. Hey, but we have another item that came in that I want to talk about just because it's fun. And let's whip up the unusual device here.
The torturous looking.
Well, yes, right.
Destruction.
You think like I do. This. I think one of the things everybody thinks about me is I've been around the game so long that there's nothing I shouldn't recognize, right?
Right.
So I get this. We got this in from one of our viewers, and she said, "I have this device," and there you can see she was kind enough to put it. Look, I mean, look at it. It's 11 inches, 10 inches long, right?
Right.
With the first 4 inches taken up by this rather weird-looking metal thing with a handle on it, right?
Yes.
So she says to me, "What is this?" And I keep thinking to she says, "I think I have a nutcracker." Well, there's no question you can crack nuts in this thing. In fact, there's a lot of different type of nuts you can crack in this thing if you're really nasty about it. But the point is that I've never seen a nutcracker that looked like this. So even though you could have some spin-off use for it, trust me, it's not a nutcracker. So I wasn't sure what to do with it. And finally I emailed the gal and I said, "Look, I have no idea what this is off the top of my head. And I could research all kinds of tools, but I said, there are two interesting ways you can find out what it is. All right. Now you don't know what it is either, right?
I do not.
And you're not about to crack any nuts in it either.
No.
So first of all, there's a wonderful organization called the Early American Industries Association. Now, these are a bunch of guys and gals that collect old tools. And I ran across them back in the 70s. Well, actually, even earlier than that, I think, when I was in the museum game. And we would get a lot of these tools from farmsteads and stuff, and we didn't know what they were. So the Early American Industry Association has a publication, and they have a What's It column, right?
Yeah.
And so when we didn't know what we had, we would send notes in. Well, sometimes they would publish it in the paper, but other times we just hear right back and say, "Oh, that's a blank," okay? And I thought that was a great service. Well, I have a weekly column called Rinker on Collectibles, and that appears in the Antique and Collectibles section of Farm and Dairy Publications out of Salem, Ohio. And they have a column called Hazard a Guess, all right, which is essentially the same thing. People send in weird-looking, strange objects, and actually, I'm surprised. I can usually guess half of them without even having to do any research work. But even so I suggested to her that she send this picture to both those organizations and said, "Look, see what they can tell you, and then let me know." Right?
Yeah.
So you ready for what this is? Because it is a cork condenser. If you were making wine, and you bought a bunch of corks, right?
Right. You got to get them small enough to fit in the bottle.
So you got to get the cork compressed to get it in the bottle so it swells up again. Or you wet the cork and compress it, and then you put it in the bottle and it dries out and it, does it. Well, this is a cork compressor for winemaking.
Well, that makes sense because the jaw looks like it's got a little.
Yes, you know what? After I discovered, first of all, the person who sent this in, they were very nice enough to send me an email and saying, "Hey, I heard back from the Early American Association. This is what the guy told me it was." And the minute I saw it, then you see how that jaw looks rounded?
Yes.
not like some kind of gripping vise like you would on a vise on a bench or something like that. So you can, yeah, obviously it's round, so it would take the cork and condense it. Now, I haven't had a lot of experience condensing corks. I've had a lot of experience removing them, but not condensing.
Yeah.
Right. But now the question becomes, I suppose, in this day and age, the logical question is, who needs a cork condenser? Right?
Well, there's a lot of people doing their own wine now.
Yes. But hey, but now wait a minute. When was the last time you went out and bought a bottle of wine that had a cork in it? First of all, the corks are plastic these days, so it still have some kind of stopper in there. But the other thing is, most of the ones in Germany now have screw tops on them.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, more and more wineries are going to screw top wine bottles. So I mean, this is a fun thing to sit around. I mean, it's when we talk about all this weird value in the trade called conversation value. Here's an example of conversation value. I actually think it's story opportunity value too. I think you could create some very interesting stories about how this could have been used.
Yes, in the Spanish Inquisition.
Yes, that's right. It could have been a torture device for fingers.
That's right.
Or any one of a number of possible uses. But anyway, so the question becomes, what's its value? It's $10-15 worth of curiosity, maybe. I mean, I'll tell you how excited I was about it. I didn't think I wanted to own it. Who knows? Right? But here's the thing. The next one I see, I'll know what it is.
That's right. That's right. I will too.
And so will everyone else. So will everybody else who has watched this video.
That's right.
So once again, we have been instrumental in providing large amounts of useless information to people.
Well, that's what we're known for.
That's what we are known for. Yes, we are. Well, anyway, we'll be back in Michigan next week. But meanwhile, I have another day of meetings of the stamp group and so forth. So I'm going to say goodbye to you.
All right.
And everybody, and thank everybody for at least tuning in or checking in or taking a look and say.
All right. Well, until next week then.
Oh, do I sound tired? Oh, sorry about that. Is that still broadcasting live here? I should have.
Yes, we're still live.
Yes. Well, enough of that. Get me out of here.
Okay, Harry. Until next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.